Hey everyone, me Kevin here. In this video, I want to give a breakdown of why I actually think now is oddly a bad time to sell stocks. And I know that sounds crazy, like, what? Kevin's saying it's a bad time to sell stocks. I know. Give me a sec. Hear me out here, okay? It's too noisy out here. All right, here's the scoop. Q1 earnings are going to be good, as we've already seen. Why would Q1 be bad? January was full of hope. February, March, mostly March, was full of pull forward. Of course we're going to have good earnings. So we're probably going to have good earnings for the rest of the next 4 weeks. You know, NVIDIA is always late. Probably have good earnings, especially with comments out of Google. Hey, so far, macro keeps staying fine the way it is. We're going to keep spending. Great. So if we're not expecting bad earnings, and at the same time, Donald Trump is starting to walk back some of his tariff negativity, and he doesn't want to fire Powell, it's no surprise that we've been rocket shipping straight up since Monday. Now, what's fascinating is today we saw a little bit of a FOMO gamma squeeze. That makes sense because this morning to course members, I was like, hey, volatility has gotten really low on a lot of different stocks. Maybe now's a good time for buying options because volatility is so low, which is a great time to usually buy options because you want to buy options when volatility is low. You want to sell them when volatility is high. This is simple. So that's what we were talking about in the Alpha report this morning. We're like, everything's freaking low today. Now, I don't think anybody was expecting that, you know, by like 8 or 9 a.m. we would have a full-on gamma squeeze and Tesla would rocket up this way. But people are also saying, like, Kevin, you know, why does it make sense that Tesla is down or is up after terrible earnings? How does it not make sense? Of course it makes sense. All the bad news got priced in when Tesla fell from 488 down to 220. Now, that doesn't mean, I think, in the near term, there won't be other lows. Obviously, if you're in this very long term, you don't care about the fluctuations, great. Buy the dip, perfect. It's made money. There will probably be other buy the dip opportunities. That's because when do we actually think poopy hits the fan? Frankly, probably not until June or July. I mean, think about this logically for a moment. The blank ships and the empty store shelves and us pushing through inventory doesn't happen until June or July. Layoffs of people who don't have any work to do in the May, port worker task allocations, we're not going to see that until June or July. And you have to get past severance. You have to get past the severance of the contractors, the private contractors that get laid off, usually 2 for every 1 federal worker that gets laid off. You know, a lot of the federal workers took leave until September paid, so they're not actually going to show up until October, but the contractors might show up earlier. They might show up as soon as June or July. And guess what you get in July? Q2 data. So interestingly, now is actually a weirdly bad time to sell stocks, in my opinion. So if you think about it, why would you sell right now when you're in a position of, oh, wait a sec, we might actually end up just getting more good Q1 data. And then after we get more good Q1 data, well, you know, poopy doesn't hit the fan until July. So what's the rush? In other words, what I'm saying is, if you're looking to diversify and you want to buy some house hack stock or whatever you want to diversify into, I actually think you could, and I'm not saying you're not going to have volatility. There'll be up and down days, obviously. You know, Monday could be a red give back day, right? But I wouldn't be surprised for the next month until the next Fed meeting, things are actually quite okay. We continue to get decent Q1 earnings. We continue to be in a, position of Donald Trump sort of talking about lessening the trade drama and trade warfare, which is also good. I wish I could place this somewhere. That'd be really nice. Because that's also what's happening a little bit right now, right? Donald Trump is walking back some of the drama of the trade warfare, which is totally logical. And he's getting rewarded for that in the stock market, which he loves talking about the stock market when it's up. So why not? Now, there's a downside risk. The downside risk is that gives Donald Trump more of an ego to actually keep tariffs up. And if he keeps tariffs up, well, then that July damage that we get from empty sailings continues. So look, if you're a long-term buy and hodler, who cares? Don't worry. There'll be other opportunities to buy the dip. They're coming. But if you're looking for some short-term opportunities, my guess is now's probably not the best time to sell. You might have another 4 weeks of legs, and it's very simple. Talk about Donald Trump walking back some of the tariffs, bullish. Delayed unemployment reads, bullish. Talk about the Fed will bail us out if they need to, even though that's not going to happen probably until September. Just the talk or assumption of it, bullish. Q2 earnings? Dude, we're not even through the first month of Q2 earnings. How are we going to get bad Q2 earnings numbers? We're not even going to get, interim reports that are bad. Sure, some bad numbers out of airfare. Of course, the shipping and hiring companies are starting to see it. But I don't know that the market broadly prices this stuff in until later in April. So we might temporarily have reached a bottom. Now, there are a lot of bear pieces out there, and I haven't actually been reporting on a lot of them because I'm like, I don't know, man. I mean, UBS had a horrible bear piece. There were actually some really good bear pieces where, like, if you wanted to make some bear porn videos, I've got a bunch of resources for you. But I don't think it's necessary right now because the reality is such that, hey, things might actually be quite okay for the next 4 weeks here. So pretty optimistic about that. Lauren's pulling up in the Tesla, and that means I gotta go. So I'm pretty optimistic, and obviously I get a little pessimistic when we get to the summer. Once we get to the summer, that's when I think poopy doopies can hit the fan. So just be prepared for that. And again, if you're long term, it doesn't matter. If you're shorter term, that might be something to consider. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.